This is a video for people who would like to get into sailboating but don't know where to go, have no record or history of it, no background, and maybe not even any friends or anybody. But if you have a lake and you have wind, you can sailboat. And so I had zero experience with sailboats up till about a month and a half ago. So I'm going to go through the process that got me this small sailing boat here and why I decided on what I got and how it's been since I've got it. So I started off with an inflatable kayak. The inflatable kayak was not great. It was a pretty bad, but it did get me out on the water, and it was very cheap. And when I wanted to get rid of it, it was pretty easy to sell and get rid of too. The inflatable kayak was replaced with a regular kayak for Shauna because my wife really loved the kayak and she was really enjoying it. I found it to be a little on the boring side. I got a paddleboard. The paddleboard was a lot more interesting, giving you multiple ways to use it. Stand on your knees, sit down, and you could get off of it and on it pretty easily. So I like the paddleboard, but it's sort of the same problem that I had with the kayak is that it's really slow. The paddleboard is more of like a toy in a way. It's less of like an actual like boat. It feels like it's not very good at going places. So I started thinking about getting a boat, and I had a couple notions in my mind. Do I want a long ocean kayak, which seemed really maybe hard to use, like I'd fall out of it, they're so skinny. And then I started looking at sailboats, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun to just go on these like cruises around the lake on a sailboat, and that led me to the Sunfish. I started finding that was pretty much the cheapest sailboat. I was finding a lot of them on Facebook Marketplace for basically almost free or a couple $100. And after 2 or 3 times they got away, I bought one and without a trailer, and I put it on my van and I shoved it on top of the van. This was a bad idea because it was basically impossible to use. So I sold that one and ended up buying an Aqua Finn, which is a clone of a Sunfish. It's about a 30-year-old boat. And I bought this thing for quite a bit more than $200, but still it wasn't much more than just a trailer by itself would cost me. So it was in much better shape and was ready to go. And so first off, with the sailing, you've got to rig it. And so if you trailer like I do and you don't keep your boat, like at a beach or something, the rigging process on a Sunfish is very simple. You just drop in the mast through the gooseneck there on the sail. You got to make sure everything's kind of arranged right. Haul the sail up and tie it. And it's really straightforward and really simple. So big fan of that. And if you're going to trailer, I don't have any experience in bigger boats, but I'm sure that there's nothing that's going to compare to a Sunfish when it comes to trailering and rigging. All right, so you've watched some YouTube videos, you've got your boat rigged up. It's not that hard. You've got it trailered. You learned how to back your trailer. That is kind of hard, but you've got it backed up. You've got your boat in the water, and you're going to start sailing. So one of the first things that I learned, and I'm not an expert, just to get that out of the way right now, I'm not an expert. I've been sailing like 11 times now, so I barely know what I'm doing. But this is what I've learned after my short career as a sailor this summer. So first off, it's a lot slower than I thought it would be. You don't go very fast, especially in light wind conditions. You're kind of barely moving sometimes. You look at if you do have GPS or something, you're going like 2 miles an hour. So it can be really slow, frustratingly slow. If it's hot and you're not really, and there's not a lot of wind, it can be really uncomfortable out there on the water too. So I found that with wind conditions, 7 to 10 miles an hour is the best for me. If it's stronger than that, it's a lot more fun, but then it's a lot more challenging. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But if it's like 5, you can sail. It's just kind of pretty slow. Okay, so wind conditions can be really frustrating because I found that at least here, and this is a big lake, like I said, when you're close to the land, it's really unpredictable. Like it seems to start and stop, change directions. You just don't know what's going on. One of the most challenging things for me is just getting out of the stinking bays and stuff where the boat ramps are, because, you know, like you're trying not to have to paddle. Paddling these boats is really hard because you really need you need both hands to control the boat, but then you're also trying to paddle. I did have my brother on the boat with me for a while once, and he was helping me out paddling, and it actually was really nice to have another person on there to paddle. But yeah, so next thing to talk about is the fact that unless you are somewhere where sailing is really popular, a lot of lakes, especially, you know, like us, these big Midwestern lakes and stuff, sailing is not particularly popular. There's not very many people doing it. I would guess that sailing probably peaked in popularity like in the 70s or something. It just seems like everybody wants easy. Nobody really wants to be out there goofing around with a sailboat here. But it's funny to me. It's something that people would love to do on vacation. Like they go somewhere and they're like, oh man, I'm going to sail on vacation. But it's like, oh no, I'd never do that at home. And that makes no sense to me, because it's like, well, if you're going on vacation to do something, isn't it something you want to do and cool? But it's like, I think people just don't consider the fact that, you know, you could have a sailboat and they're not very expensive. Like I said, it's pretty cheap. Okay, so you're going to get some weird looks and maybe even some weird yells. I've had some people, I haven't had anybody rude or anything, but I've had some ski boats and jet boats and stuff kind of shoot by really close a couple times. And I know, you know, that I don't think they were really doing it on purpose, but they didn't really worry too much about, you know, not coming by close, which I thought was annoying. A lot of people think of boating as essentially just like a mobile party platform out on the water. You see them guys out there, if they're drunk, you might run into somebody saying something stupid to you, like, oh, sailboat. But anyway, yeah, so, you know, it's just you're doing something on the less than normal side, I guess you could say. Okay, so another thing I've run into is that with sailing, this kind of surprised me, but because of the way they are, it's almost impossible to really like sail with. I don't even know about another sailboat because I haven't sailed with it, but like my wife in the kayak, we could be going in the same direction, but I have to go totally different direction to get there. You know, like she can go straight against the wind and I cannot keep up no matter what, since I have to tack so much, and I might be going a lot faster, but I can't keep up. So with, you know, and then it's like just hard to like even come to a stop sometimes. You know, you have to kind of do a circle and slide out almost, it feels like, to get your boat to stop. So they're, you know, with a kayak or with another boat, they maybe be a little bit challenging. I think that'll get better with skill. Okay, so they're physically demanding, and I was hoping that they kind of would be. I didn't want to just sit here. I wanted something kind of interesting. I would say in some ways they're more physically demanding than kayaking, which doesn't make sense since the wind is doing the work for you. But you have to be a lot more mobile than you would be on a kayak, you know, or any other kind of boat. You're kind of, you know, when you tack, you're shooting back and forth on one side of the boat to the other. You got to watch out for the boom, so you're ducking. And then even when you're just like on a long sailing, like say on a reach where you're sailing with the wind kind of at your side, there's a lot of balancing going on. You're holding, you got a whole lot of holding that main sheet rope, which holds the sail, is a lot of work. So it's more physically demanding than I thought would be, and a boat like a Sunfish is not comfortable. Like there's not really there's no good nice seating place on this thing. Everything it's just flat and, you know, pretty uncomfortable. So not really something set up for long-term sailing. I think these were more like something you could kind of go play around with. The longest I've sailed so far was, I think, about 2.5, 3 hours, and I was definitely done at that point. So I know people that probably sail in these all day, and, you know, but maybe with time it gets easier. If you're not very flexible, if you're not very good at, like, say, getting your weight, getting your knees bent and getting your weight low and then shifting your weight, you may have a really hard time with this. So probably one of the most important lessons is that I've been trying to relearn is you cannot let go of the tiller, and you cannot you have to be aware of what's going on with the wind at all times. You cannot let go of the tiller. You cannot let go of the main sheet, and you can't hardly take a break when you're doing this. It's like you have to be like on focus most of the time, because you change direction just a little bit. Maybe if you got the wind behind you and you change direction just a little bit, you could have what's called a jibe, and that boom will kind of fly around really, really fast. Hit me in the head once, and it's still kind of sore there. So yeah, you got to watch out for that. It's just your both hands are almost always being used. It can be hard to even get a drink or something. Now let's talk about capsizing. So capsizing a boat seems like a disaster. If I saw a canoe flip upside down, that might be a problem for some people. If you see a bass boat flip upside down or a john boat, that's probably going to be a big problem. You're not going to be able to flip that thing over in the water. Sunfish are different though. These boats are designed to be capsized, and then one person can very easily flip it over. I found that out firsthand because I did my first accidental capsize. And a lot of people do like capsize drills in practice. I hadn't done that yet. So I had my first accidental capsize on this particular sailing trip. What happened was I let go of the tiller, and I was going pretty fast on a reach, leaning out. And for whatever reason, I was like struggling almost to hold on to the sheet. It was like I was wanting to use my other hand and, give that one a break for a minute. I let go of the tiller, and it just suddenly shot over to one side, and the boat flipped over on me before I even knew what was going on. And it was really trivial, really easy to get the boat flipped back over, righted. Getting back in was a little bit harder because the wind was blowing hard. The sail was even though the sail was more or less straight with the wind, nobody holding the sheet, it was still kind of pulling the boat. The worst thing was I lost my water bottle. Anything that's not strapped, tied down, secured to the boat is going to go flying out. And if you're in a windy, rough water, it's going to move somewhere else. You're going to move somewhere else. I had my eyes on my water bottle. I could see it, but I couldn't get to it. It was directly upwind from me, and I was like trying to get to it. I would make a pass at it, and then I couldn't see it, and I'd see it again, and eventually I lost it, which was really frustrating because I really wanted the water. It was really, really hot this day. But capsizing, it was actually, I'm almost glad it happened to me, because now I'm not nearly as scared of it as I would be if, it never happened. Now, there's some nice things. I mean, that's just a bunch of things that haven't been so great about boating, but some nice things is that there's no gas needed, So I know my brother used to jet ski, and he would complain all the time about how much gas they burn through. So, no gas needed. You don't have to worry about running out of gas. If you run out of wind, that's a problem, but, that's kind of cool. And there's mainly just that rewarding feeling of, I thought of it as like you're harnessing nature. And this is really cool, but the sails and sailboating has existed for longer than like written language. Like it's prehistoric and it's been around for a very, very long time. So if you're sailing, you're doing something that people have been, like using nature for all of humanity, which I think is just really kind of cool. It's like a neat skill to have, and I find it, even though it can be very frustrating and demanding, I find it kind of fun. I find it very fun too. And going 8-9 miles an hour when you have a decently strong wind in a Sunfish, you would think that you are on a race boat. It seems so fast because you're so close to the water, and you're heeling, and can be a lot of fun. So ultimately, I'm really glad that I bought the sailboat. I think I made a pretty good decision. I would love to try a catamaran, try a Hobie Cat, but I think that trailering one of those is going to be quite a bit more of a task than a Sunfish. So and if somebody knows and wants to give me some more information here, I'd love to have it. But I feel like the Sunfish is probably like the ultimate beginner's trailering boat to learn to sail on. if you're not going to leave it in a slip or on a beach or something, it's perfect. So, all right, guys, see you later.